You're covering up the white bar.
You mean your skin?
Now face every other camera.
Nobody?
My body is now known as a white bar.
The white part.
Center to the center camera.
Pastry chef Ashley Boyd was raised in the food business, spending afternoons and evenings at her mother's restaurant as a child. After studying fine arts and art education at the Art Institute of Chicago, Chef Ashley felt the pull to return to food with restaurant, bakery, and hotel positions in Chicago, Charleston, and Detroit. Eventually, she returned to Charlotte and to the family business 300 East. Chef Ashley held many positions at the restaurant, including general manager, often working less in the kitchen, but her passion for dessert making remained, and in September 2015, Chef Ashley took on the pastry chef position at Chef Paul Verica's Heritage Food and Drink in Waxhaw, North Carolina, while also overseeing the dessert program at 300 East.
Ashley,
Hi,
thanks for having us this morning.
thanks for coming.
How you feeling?
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You look a little like a deer caught in the headlights.
Okay, yeah, I feel that way.
For those that don't know out there, we just, the restaurant industry just went through Mother's Day dinner service and brunch.
Yeah. Oh, and the day before. It was prom and graduation, too.
Oh, wow.
Still, yeah.
Wow, so
Yeah.
you got a beat down, huh?
Yeah, we got like 5 solid shifts of beat down.
Wow.
It did not stop.
What was your big seller?
On the dessert end,
Mm-hmm.
I had a new dessert really take off this weekend.
What was
It's
that?
a chocolate ganache tart with roses, rose sorbet, and rose meringues, and raspberry rose gel, white chocolate streusel that was slow to catch on, and it finally did. So.
What is it about putting your dishes forward in a way like you recently just did an internet, sort of like everybody was like, oh, Ashley, make dessert out of brick or whatever, and you took on this challenge.
What I do doesn't mean a lot to me unless I'm honoring an ingredient that someone's put in front of me. What keeps me going, what like drives that engine is what we have,
Mm-hmm.
So we have a lot of growers in Charlotte that are each year sort of expanding what they're doing and coming out with something new they didn't offer the year before.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what keeps me going. So this year, Jamie started messaging me with, oh, I have these, he doesn't grow a lot of like fruit or anything like that, but he's saying, I have violets, I have roses, I have honeysuckles. And I'm like, yes, because like it's spring and all I see is strawberries.
Right.
That's sort of where that came from. It's like, okay, he's not offering me like a box of 12 violets, at $2 a pop. He's
Right.
offering me quarts of violets. Like I can actually do something with that
Mm-hmm.
and make that a flavor. And if I'm going to make that a flavor, I want you to taste it. So I'm much more likely to be inspired by, that produce or, flour or whatever
Mm-hmm.
that's coming to me from the growers that I work with than like chocolate or, pineapples or, something that like it's easy for any pastry chef to get a hold of any day of the week.
People had pastry chefs, but I mean, there was a lot of good restaurants that operated without pastry chefs. They just sort of, like you do dessert. But it seems now that the really good restaurants and even the decent restaurants have an actual dedicated person or program. It's just a natural progression as this industry becomes Instagrammed, Facebook,
Yeah.
It's like, we need something else.
Right.
Like, do you think that's part of it as well?
I mean, I do. If I were a savory chef and I was putting so much into what I was doing with the food, I wouldn't want to then have someone end their experience with your typical restaurant dessert.
Sure.
I would want the dessert course to have as much thought and care and, be as smart as the rest of the menu.
Sure.
So restaurants that I see opening, every detail is accounted for, and then so are you not gonna have the final course have that detail also?
Yeah.
Like, why would you not? All right, guys, incoming. Scoot behind you.
You've been in the Charlotte dining scene inadvertently for a couple of months.
Since I was born.
Basically. I mean, you grew up in this house almost, right?
Yeah, well, we were in another house down the road. So where East Boulevard Bar and Grill used to be, in that little house that's torn down now, that's where we were. We were part of a little chain called the White Horse. and there's still one in Rock Hill,
When you say we, you mean
this restaurant.
okay.
So my mother started working at the White Horse when I was 3, I think, and I'm not going to say what year that was. And so I would hang out down there, when she was working, if it was after school or, she didn't have anywhere to send me, like I would be there
Sure.
irritating the wait staff and like tearing up the flowers and the sugar packets and being a pain in the ass. But in '86, that business kind of, through unfortunate circumstances, kind of tanked. And my mom brought it out of bankruptcy, moved it up here, reopened, still as the White Horse. And then eventually, early 90s, she decided she kind of wanted to move away from the sort of pub concept that the White Horse was. And we shut down, reopened as 300 East, different menu, really quite a big change. Got a lot of pushback from people who've been coming here forever,
You got pushback when you went from White Horse to 300 East?
When we started trying to change the menu, sort of move away from that pub food kind of thing, because it was pizzas and sandwiches and a few kind of entrees here and there, but it was more in the area of bar food. And people have been coming here for that forever.
Well,
so,
you still have some of those elements on the
yeah,
menu.
because of that,
That's why it's still there?
Yeah, because people wanted that same stuff, and we just kind of had to be like, okay. So like we have a sandwich on the menu called The Usual. That's the same sandwich from the White Horse.
I've eaten it. That's
menu.
awesome.
Yeah. And it used to be called the Charlie O Chicken on their menu. Like when we changed the name, like we couldn't then like come back and use their names
Right.
for them. So we had to change the names
To The
of the
Usual.
thing, even though it was the same thing. But
Usually I come in here, I sit right there, and I end up having that or the Reuben, which I'll eat a Reuben almost anywhere.
I eat that Usual like once a year. There's like one day a year when that sounds good to me. Coldest, nastiest day of the year.
That's when you
like,
want
I'll eat some Thousand Island dressing and chicken salad on a hoagie roll.
Yeah.
With cheese.
There's something like when I first saw it on there, there's the fine dining sensibility where you're like, what the fuck is all this
I know,
shit?
right?
But the thing is, I'm not.
Right, I don't care. It's been sitting there for 5 hours. I'm gonna eat it. Hey, are you sure the egg whites were clean?
You've got this place with the food going, keeping it to keep the regulars happy, and then you start doing these desserts that they're like different curtains.
Right.
That's the juxtaposition to me about this place that I think is absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
So I can come in here and get a Reuben, or I can get something that looks like it's on the cover of Bon Appetit magazine this month.
It wasn't a choice for me, really. I have done so many jobs here over the years, and since I came back to town permanently in 2001, I moved back to help my mom with the business, and she needed a GM, so I did that for 5 years. But I also wanted to do the desserts. I wanted the dessert menu to be mine, but it was always it was a side thing. I had to fit that in around everything else. But it was okay because, you think to yourself, well, people aren't looking for a masterpiece in the dessert course. They kind of want their expected things that, they want their creme brulee and their cheesecake and their brownie.
Right.
And we're okay with that. But at a certain point, after doing that for, 10, 12 years like that, I just was like, you know what? I used to be passionate about this. This is the part of the restaurant industry which I love, but that's the part that feeds me so that I can do the other stuff. If I'm not working to my potential in that area, then I'm going to be miserable. And I saw, people in Charlotte, other chefs, starting to do some really nice stuff that I admired and wanted to be around them and like talk about that stuff and be good at it. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna start pushing this area. At the time, like my mom and I were butting heads a lot about like, well, I think we need this. I think we need that. I wanted to like make changes. I wanted to maximize our seating, and I wanted to, sort of update a little bit. And she was like, why? Why? And I'm someone who needs a project all the time.
Sure.
So I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna sort of put this energy here. And the beautiful thing about me doing that in this place was that over those 12 years, I had developed a trust level with our regulars. So they knew that anything I was feeding them, even if it sounded weird, it wasn't going to suck. So it was received great. Like, it was a way for me to have my fun and be my creative self and have it appreciated. There have been very few times here, I think, where I've pushed the envelope too far for our customers because they trust me. And that's key. So I was very, very lucky to be able to have that outlet. Still, there are things that I won't do here and that I knew that I would never do here. I wouldn't.
For example?
Like a rampant olive oil dessert. I wouldn't feed that to our customers.
You wouldn't do it here?
No.
Did you do that someplace else?
So, yeah.
We'll get to that part.
Yeah.
That part. But I mean, it's not like you discovered desserts either, though, right? I mean, there's a backstory to the backstory of the backstory. You went to college for fine arts.
I did.
Painting, right?
Painting, sculpture. We did everything. You don't have to pick a major
Right.
where I went. So performance, like everything.
But did you focus mostly on painting?
Painting was probably that's what I did the most of.
Preferred
painting
medium
and sculpture,
anyways.
yeah. Always was into art. That was always my favorite subject, all throughout grade school. Went away for my last 2 years of high school to the School of the Arts in Winston and did the visual arts program there, and then went on to the School of the Art Institute in Chicago, the museum school. And, thought that was what I wanted to keep doing, but looking for a way to sort of translate that into a regular income after college. I thought I was like, I can do art conservation and restoration. Like, I knew a couple of people who did it, and I held a couple jobs doing that. And
Was you doing like carousel horses or something?
Yeah, my first,
That's kinda
my
cool,
first
though.
parade. I thought so.
Yeah, I was reading that, but I'm like, how could that not be cool? But then you
Right.
think about it, I can see where it'd be monotonous.
It was so tedious. I hated it. Like, I hated every minute of it, and I was surrounded by horrible chemicals. That I was having to sign waivers that I wouldn't try to have kids within 7 years of leaving that job. And I'm like, I don't think I like this enough to I've discovered, whereas I thought I was a very meticulous and patient person, that I am not. I don't like to sit still. I don't like to focus in on small areas of space for an extended period of time. I can't do that. My husband does that and loves it, but I can't. So it didn't quite click with me, and I started looking for another job after I graduated in conservation and restoration, and it was really competitive. And I looked pretty hard for about 3 months and didn't find anything that panned out. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna turn around and go back to what I thought was my second love, which was restaurant life, and lied about my cooking experience and went and got a job as a pantry cook in a new restaurant that was opening, and that was it. Like, never wanted to be anywhere else since.
Every successful chef that I know at some point had to lie about the amount of experience they had so they could get on the line.
Oh yeah, I got called out within my first week.
Was that the last time you were probably ever called out too?
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, I'm not getting called out anymore.
Hey, we have that donut hole special again tonight.
Okay.
Just FYI.
I will let them know.
Do you mind spreading the word?
No,
Sweet.
I will let them know.
Okay, thank you.
So you got here 2001, started a family.
I did, and
I don't know if one ever finishes a family. Why did I
Yeah, I
started
know,
a family?
right?
It's such a weird thing to say. Like,
When
I
you're
started a
done.
family, and I was like, I gave up. Baby, so you have 2 children.
Yep, 6 and 10, boy and a girl.
So your mom, and general managing, trying to become a pastry chef.
Yeah, so
Sorry, that's a horrible way to put it.
no, it's okay
focusing on
because I wasn't trying for what I
Okay.
mean for a while.
Yeah, but it sounded so
something-
dismissive the way that I said, like trying to become a pastry chef, and that wasn't my intent.
It's true though. When I had my first kid, I turned over general managing to somebody else because I'm like, I can't handle that and having young children. Like,
Right.
I know my limits to some extent, maybe not very well, but I know I can't do that. So Haley Shore, who was working here, stepped into that position. And I focused on raising a small baby and doing the desserts, but still, that was like a 20-hour-a-week job. I was really, really fortunate to be able to do that and have that time with both of my kids when they were young and nursing and stuff. And knew I wouldn't go back to GMing, But, you know, like as the kids started to get to where they didn't physically need me all the time, just started to get restless and, you know, came back in. And in addition to desserts was, you know, trying to help run things out here and just trying to be as involved in the restaurant as I possibly could without, you know, actually being the general manager.
Right.
I'll spin the rows and then I'll just start spinning whatever else we have. This is totally empty. Really?
Your food does, and it almost seems like, or since I became aware of what you're doing dessert-wise, seems to have a narrative to it. It seems to tell, like there seems to be a story, something that you're getting at. Maybe it's because, maybe it's the artistic background, I'm not sure. Does it seem like a fair thing to say?
A story? I don't know. I mean, I think
I don't mean like you're going in there like, you know,
right.
but
I think there's
seems,
poetry definitely that I'm trying to achieve,
right.
you know, like the same way that I apply my creative energy a lot better to food than I did to any artwork that I ever did, because it's, you know, composition with what flavors are going to play off beautifully together, you know, like how they talk to each other. And it'll start with one thing, you know, like Kim's like, I have tons of muscadines that have been growing on my property for 50 years. Use them. Or Mary from Windcrest Farm growing celery one year. She never grew it again. I'm so sad. This is the most beautiful stuff. But it's like,
you did some really cool stuff with our celery.
I love celery. But it's just sort of like, okay, like first I kind of think of like, how's this thing gonna be the star, you know? And then, you know, how many forms can I put it in so that you really get that, and then like what interacts really well with that. But it's always about honoring the qualities of this one beautiful thing that's put in front of me, and all the possibilities that come from that one thing.
So when I'm composing a dish and I'm thinking about flavors, the way that I think about flavors, the way I experience them is a lot like music. So I'm looking for like the same way a cymbal sounds, like I've got to have that like sort of pop, and it depends on whether I'm looking for like, you know, an accent or a loud crash or something in the background. It's just kind of bright and just back there, like just hanging on the hi-hat. And it's funny because you were like, as you were talking about these flavors, like how do you, when you're doing flavors, like do you have a specific way you perceive them? Do you have a specific way you're trying to compose them, as far as like with me, I'm trying to do with music?
No, I don't. I mean, it's all sort of just up here and like a muddy mess. Like I don't.
You say a muddy mess?
No, I mean, it just, there are things swirling around in there and they just sort of, you know, I don't really have a method, you know, of how I compose things. It's just sort of, I do write, like I'll just, if I do ever any work on paper, like I don't sketch things out like Paul does, or, you know, I have lists of flavors. So I'll be like, okay, this is what we have. And then I'll take every single one of those, and beside it, this is what, I want to try this with that, you know, this is what'll pair well, or even like, this sounds really cool, you know, like this not only I think would be a great match with this, but it like sounds neat, you know?
You mean as far as the flavor combination or the technique, or both?
Both.
Yeah.
Yeah. I bore myself really easily. So like if I look at dishes and I'm like, I don't ever want to become formulaic, like with how I do things. And like, it scares me when I see that I'm like repeating like the same stuff over and like this, like I take a thing and I put it in these different forms, and that like
you almost
I hate
don't
that.
ever want to do it again.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. It's like, you know, it's like I've done a dish, I don't really ever want to go back and do it again.
Right.
You know, I don't ever want to, like, I don't want to repeat myself. Do you think that has to do with sort of the artistic background? Like you don't want to paint the same painting your entire life, or, you know, I don't want to throw the same.
Because like it doesn't, like to me, like when you put focused, excited energy towards something, that comes through on the plate.
Yeah.
You know? So even if a dish was great, and then next year you bring it back out again and do it exactly the same way, I think like that actually translates to the guests. Like they don't feel the excitement in it. You know what I mean? Here I need to be able to have menus that rotate out to a certain extent. Like I'll have 2 or 3 things that are pretty much the same, maybe tweaked slightly every season. You know, like the bread pudding comes back out every fall for the winter because people love it, and it'll have different accompaniments. But accompaniments. How do you say that?
You got it.
And then I'll have like a couple of, like 1 or 2 ringers, you know, that are totally new. But at Heritage, it's been really nice to go through an entire season there.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, fall rolls around again, and it's like, this was really good last year. I'm going to bring it back, but I'm going to play with it and change and expand it so it's still fresh. And it just feels like so much better than like my first year there, when every day felt like a struggle, you know, to
Right.
find a voice. And
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about Heritage. So you've been with them how long now?
A year and a half.
Wow.
September 2015.
Man, it seems like honestly, it seems longer, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It just seems like you, like he opened up, and then all of a sudden it was like the big announcement. Paul Verica's got this restaurant open up down there, and it was about a year into it, and then you came on board, and it just seemed to go. I'm not saying because of you, but I'm also saying that you were part of that as it really started to go. When I heard that you were going to be doing both, A, I was glad to hear that you were not leaving Charlotte, but B, that you were signing on with Paul, because I think it's a perfect marriage as far as like, he's very willing to take yesterday's menu, no matter how successful it is, throw it out, start all over again.
More so than me. So I'm having to
Now your mom
learn you know, to do that. His concept is so completely different. The sort of space that I have to do what I love to do there is completely different from how I can do it here. And the reason why I wanted to go and work with him at that place specifically is because I think that our cooking styles just mesh so well together, and that I could really continue his vision all the way through.
Right.
I would never have gone anywhere else. I would never have taken on a side gig for any other restaurant.
So did you reach out to him, or did he reach out to you?
I came to him.
Did you really?
Well, see, we had kind of met on Instagram, and he had commented on a picture that I had posted up saying, when I have the money to hire a pastry chef, I'm coming after you. And I don't think he knew fully my connection to this place.
Right.
You know, this is forever. Like, I would never leave here. And I was thrilled when I saw that, because I was like, I really like his work, and you know, maybe there's some way we could work together at some point. And so I commented back, you know, if you need somebody for an event, or you know, have a one-off of something that you want to do, just let me know. Like, I would love to do that. You know, as I saw like what he was doing and started feeling that there were certain things I really wanted to do where this wasn't the right venue at 300 East for me to do those things, I was like, I'm going to go talk to him, because I feel like in a 36-seat restaurant, I mean, I do desserts for a 100-plus seat restaurant, and I've done them by myself for years. I'm like, I can do that in my sleep. Like, I can do that, no problem.
Right.
So I like marched up there and talked to him, and you know, it worked out. And as soon as I started doing it, I'm like, this is really hard.
Yeah.
Because
Look at all the touches.
he was saying, and he wants those.
Yeah. No. Paul Verica and plate touches? You gotta be kidding me.
Which is fun for me. The few times I've worked service there, like I'm concerned for the people who actually have to execute that. But I think we were selling like 40 to 60 desserts a week, or maybe 60. And then, you know, that year we got the best restaurant, Charlotte Magazine's best restaurant. And after that, it was like 100 or 120 a week. So like it's definitely not like the easy side gig that I thought it would be.
It's definitely not.
Is there one up there?
There's 1.5. And
Oh.
there's another one down here. But I don't know why I was freaking out. I was just feeling so anxious about everything.
No, I mean, we sold 15 of those on Sunday night. So
Yeah.
it's good to be ahead.
You decided that you're gonna split your time between 300 East and Heritage, and be a mom and a wife. You had to find somebody to help give you some pressure relief somewhere.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that little beast.
What do you want?
Where do I want what?
Where can I?
At your spot?
Oh, it's so.
Miranda Brown, my sous chef here at 300.
Uh-huh.
She's also been working with me at Heritage for probably the past almost a year. And she was the first person who came. I did this by myself for a very, very long time, and that was fine. Like, we didn't need more than that.
Right.
I got to a point where I needed help. We were doing restaurant week. We were selling a lot of desserts on a weekly basis besides that, and I needed help, especially to be able to, you know, do anything else in the business other than desserts. So she came in, and I had some people help me out before, most not for that long. She was the first person who was excited and as passionate about what we were doing here as I am. And that changed everything for me because I found myself in the position of needing to give up some of what I was doing so that she could do what she wanted and needed to do.
How hard was that for you? Because you seem like most of us in this industry or any creative person, you definitely have a little attachment to things, to what it is that you do, to your creativity.
Yeah, it was difficult and it is difficult still. I'll kind of try to remove myself from parts of the situation and then I'll come back in. Because it is really difficult to relinquish, that control. But I needed her help, and especially when I was thinking about and wanted to make that move to taking on Heritage as sort of a second, outlet.
Right.
I needed someone here who could do pretty much everything I could do in the dessert, world.
Right.
Or I would never have been able to do that.
And she's tag teaming with you at both places, right?
She is, yeah.
Was that by design, or did she go, hey, I want to go down there and do that too?
Well, doing both is hard. And, there are times when I feel like this place needs me more than at other times. So, there have been times where I've been like, okay, I really can only make it to Heritage one day this week. So I need somebody who knows the drill and can, go in there and do the production when I'm not there.
Right.
So she's that person.
I just put all of these are like the most important things.
Okay.
And I'll talk to Erin, or if you do, then that's just the most important. And then all of that is just kind of busy work, like whipped ricotta. I know you have corn dogs.
What's the future for you?
I have no idea.
Well, of course, but what would you... Do you have well, we all have aspirations. Do you have any designs on ever leaving any of this and going to do your own?
No, I mean, for me, I'm a stubborn person and I want this place to keep going as long as possible and do well. I just want to keep going, keep doing great. And I want to do whatever we have to do to stay ahead of that and keep that going. I don't have any concrete plans to do one thing or another. Right now I've just sort of like followed my love of what I do, and I don't really know where it's going to lead or what's next. I'm just sort of like doing it.
Looks like it should be an interesting year for you.
So we'll see.
Awesome. I think on that note, we covered it all.
Okay.
Thank you for having us today.
Thank you.
It was awesome.
Fun.
Yeah, it was. Now we have to look at the cameras.
Okay.
You ready?
The bad dream was that I came to work here and that I walked into that door, the kitchen, and I'm staring at, it's the first person here, and I'm staring at an open walk-in door that's been propped open with a number 10 can, and it's like all night.
Oh,
so
wow.
I'm like, every bit of food in that cooler has to go in the trash. So that was my nightmare. I woke up in a panic. I realized it was a dream. I'm like, oh, that's awesome, that was just a dream, I'm going back to sleep. I go back to sleep. I dream that I actually do go into work and that I actually am standing in the kitchen looking at the open walk-in door. And I'm like, ah, it was real.